Welcome to this week's Who the Folk podcast. I'm Lonnie Goldsmith, the editor of TC Jewfolk. This week I talk with the very talented actress Marci Lucht. We talk about acting in her first Six Points Theater show, Trayf, which is playing now through March 12th, what attracted her to the stage, and the struggle of putting a career over so many other things on this week's Who the Folk podcast. But before we get started, be sure to check out some of the other podcasts that Jewfolk produces, like The Jews Are Tired, where Lev Gringos is taking a deep dive into Jewish news, Kumba Hineni, Jewfolk's podcast on intersectionality with your host, Enzi Tanner. And if you're looking for a weekly dose of Jewish pop culture, check out The Bagel Report, produced by Jewfolk in partnership with Jay, the Jewish News of Northern California. Go to tcjewfolk.com/podcast to learn more. Marci Lucht, welcome to the Who the Folk podcast. Thank you for joining me.
Lonnie, I am cavelling right now. I am so happy to be here. I can't deal with it. I'm so excited. I was just telling you off mic that our my actor friends my Jewish actor friends, we joke that if Lonnie hasn't called you, you haven't made it as a Jewish actor in Minnesota. So I feel a certain level of radiating off me. You
throwing me off my game, and we haven't even started yet.
I'm sorry.
Thanks for that, I guess.
Happy Monday, everyone.
Yes.
I'm so pumped.
Yes, indeed. As you said, you're an actor. You have acted at a ton of different places. You've done a lot of Shakespeare, which is really cool, and we'll get into some of that. But you are in the upcoming Six Points Theater show of Trayf.
I'm so excited.
Tell everyone about Trayf.
Yes. Okay. So actually, a few years ago, I remember seeing the name of the playwright on this really cool website called New Play Exchange. And before writers get picked up by Samuel French or Dramatist Play Services, sometimes you're lucky enough to get to read their scripts before any other theaters produce them. And so I knew the name Lindsay Joel as the playwright. And she wrote this play about two 18-year-old Hasidic kids in 1991 in Crown Heights, Brooklyn, and they have a mitzvah truck, and they're out and they're doing these amazing outreach miracles with people. They're praying, they're meeting folks there, and it is also about their friendship, and it's a coming of age story, but it's hilarious and sweet and so well written and so funny and smart. Trayf means unkosher, but Lindsay has sort of repurposed the word to mean assimilation of one's soul, the Jewish soul in particular. So
interesting.
It's cool, and I don't want to
No, don't give too much away.
Yeah, I don't want to sell the farm. So I'm trying to be withhold a bit.
Yeah.
But I'm so excited. I hope people come and see it because it's really been amazing to work on.
So by the magic of podcasting, by the time people hear this, the show will have been open for a week.
Yes.
So
it is a magical medium, is it not?
It totally is. So the show will have been open for a week. So, and we'll have a couple weeks to run. It's running through March 12th. So by all means, if you haven't gone to see it, go see it because it sounds really, really phenomenal. This is your first show at Six Points Theater.
It is. And I was actually talking to Barbara Brooks, the artistic director, a while ago. I think it was a couple weeks back in the rehearsal process. And she was like, why have we never worked with you before? And I said, because I was terrified. This theater meant so much to me. I mean, back when it was the Minnesota Jewish Theater, I remember going to shows and throughout high school into college and just be Sally Wingert and Robert Dorfman and all of these mentors, these giants of the Minneapolis theater scene that I loved. And I was terrified. I was like, I can't do that.
And now Robert works there.
I know. And every time I see him, I swallow and then run in the opposite direction because I'm that's Robert Dorfman. I get so caught up. But it's amazing to me that these people are now my heroes, but they're accessible. You can go up to them and just be hey pal, you want to go to Cecil's? It's ridiculous how wonderful it is in that building. But I had a lot of imposter syndrome.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So I was very hesitant, but also it was I'm going to get there someday. And finally, Jenny Ward, who's directed a ton out there, she knew me from a different project and she was like, stop. You have to just get over yourself and go. And I did, and it's been amazing. So this is my first show that I auditioned. I mean,
really?
I got lucky. I got so lucky, and it's just been an amazing experience. But yeah, I was mortified. I was I'm not good enough. I'm not going to, all this, negative self-talk. But
So you've done a lot of shows here in the Twin Cities at some really impressive parts and plays and theater. And it's like, why did Minnesota Jewish Theater, now 6 Points Theater, feel unattainable?
I think for me, and I don't know if anyone else has this, maybe, you could either confirm or deny in your own spirit if
Yes.
you have this, but if I get excited about something, I tend to put it kind of on a pedestal or just really become infatuated with the history and sort of psych myself out. I get so, excited about the prospect of working at a place I've always dreamed of. I can trip myself up a little bit. And I definitely know I never saw a bad show there.
Yeah.
And I'm a hard critic. People who know me will be like, "Oh, she's a rough one to like." Are you gonna ask Lucht about what she really thinks? Because that could take a while. But I feel like I would go and I would see these shows and these amazing artists, and I was just always really it was special to me,
Right?
In a way, and so I didn't weirdly. I was like, I have to be a certain level in my career before I can go. And everyone just looks at me like I'm crazy. That's the silliest thing they've ever heard. But it's all about being vulnerable in a podcast. You just really have to,
and about being vulnerable on stage too, right?
Yeah,
I mean, that's so much of at least what I've been told.
You are correct,
because I have zero acting experience, and I'm okay with that. But the idea of there's a certain amount of vulnerability to what you do on stage and how you portray the role,
absolutely,
and the character and the nuance of a particular part, even to more granular, a particular scene.
Mm-hmm.
There is that vulnerability. You have to put yourself out there.
You do, and I think all the best actors have the ability to reveal, and they get this. It's sort of an amazing connection with the audience because you can feel when the audience is with you, when you're opening your spirit up, and when you've sort of laid bare your intentions and you're on stage and because actors do bring a part of themselves to the craft. It's very difficult. I mean, I guess in my own process, I can't speak for all actors, but you bring a piece of yourself. It's not totally always just the character. And so when you're out there, there are moments of fear. I mean, you have to really be willing to expose yourself emotionally and that vulnerability. And if you lie, the audience knows, especially younger audiences. This is what I love about theater for youth, and we would do Shakespeare shows for high schoolers, and they will tell you if you suck. They will.
There's no filter.
Oh no, and I think it's amazing. Some actors hate it because they want the very silent, kind of Midwestern polite audience, and I'm like, let's yell, let's whoop it up, because back in Shakespeare's time, that was part of the energy. It raucous,
right. It was there was a give and take between the audience and the stage.
And that's what personally I feed off of. And so especially with youth, you cannot get away with any sort of lie or any sort of, I mean, they know when you're not. It's amazing to me, but they do know, they can sense it's crazy.
When you have it or when you don't.
Yeah. It's beautiful because then when they're with you, it's magic. It's everything's clicking and it feels like, it's like a high. It really is. It's amazing.
That's so cool. That's phenomenal. So going back to sort of the beginning of your acting career.
Oh, man, yeah.
What was it that got you interested in being on stage to begin with? Where did that start from?
It's so funny because I think it probably started in grade school. There was an enrichment in some English class that we were doing. I remember being in the 5th grade.
Okay.
And we had to tell a story of some kind. I think we were split into small groups, and our teacher said, act out, these stories. I think it was folk tales or something like that. And I was cast as a milkmaid I had a bucket and I was supposed to say a couple lines, and I went off the rails. I loved it so much. It was ridiculous. My mom was like, you carried that stupid bucket everywhere with you. And I really immersed myself.
Serious method acting.
Yeah. And she was like, okay, it's time for, and I'm, just little, I had no idea what it meant to be an actor at that point.
Right.
I just knew that it was something that I just took to almost immediately. And then I had great English teachers. I don't know if that is ever a correlation, but I do think if actors have good teachers early on, there's something in that really draws them out of their shell. That was the case with me anyway. I had a phenomenal junior high English teacher, and we we were doing Romeo and Juliet. Because in the 9th grade, it was just like the curriculum.
Absolutely.
I think it still sort of is.
I think it still is. It still is.
When you hit 9th grade, like, here are some 13-year-old dummies. Like, let's read about it.
Yep.
And, it's. But for me, it was like, I'm going to date myself a little bit, but in my youth, like Romeo and Juliet with Claire Danes and Leonardo DiCaprio was
absolutely.
like a big deal.
Yes.
I mean, that changed the game as far as like Shakespeare for youth, I think, like on screen.
There was an excessive, it made it feel accessible.
Yes. And like the soundtrack was cool. It was like Radiohead and like all of these awesome like Brit. But anyway, but it was, and Baz Luhrmann for me as like, I mean, a 13-year-old, it was amazing.
Right.
Just the color and the spectacle and everything. And so that movie was in the background, but then we were doing it in school, and then we had like the student body set up these little Academy Awards, and so everyone would vote. And I just awkward little Marci Lucht with glasses and bushy hair, I got voted like best Juliet, and I just cried. I sobbed. It was like, I didn't even know. Like I loved it so much, and it never occurred to me I'd be good at it. I just wanted to do it so badly. And then, it was like people sort of started to put it in my head, like, you should think about like,
this is a thing you could do.
Yeah. Like you should think about like, how do you explore this? But I come from a family of teachers. So I was always in my head, I thought I was going to teach. I was going to teach college. I was going to teach college English and make my students act and like do all of those cool things that I loved in English class.
Right.
And I just never made it. Like I got to college and I went to Augsburg, and it was amazing. Like everyone was like, no, I really think the drama department is where you need to be. And so, that's sort of how it started. And then I was a terrible college student because I kept taking like a class here, a class there, but then I would like stop and go do shows. So they could never like pin me down. They're like, we would love you to graduate. I'm like, me too. It'd be lovely. Like, someday. But then I'd be doing, Shakespeare in the Park or something like that. And then just like come back a semester later, like, what did I miss?
Right. I mean, and that's sort of the hard thing about being I'm guessing, tell me if I'm wrong, if you did like a bunch of student shows or like university plays, that kind of thing, those would sort of fit within the curriculum to, get you your degree and get you out.
Yeah.
But when you're doing shows at, theaters all over the area, it probably is a little more challenging to get that to work within the curriculum of college.
Well, and I got lucky. I did have amazing professors, and they were also artists in their own right. So they were sort of willing to like, there was no stringent, you have to do this and you have to be here for all. They were like, oh, you have a gig, with this troupe or this group or this theater, like, we'll just count that as, because they understood like,
oh, sure,
it's super hard as an actor to do school. But then like I was telling you earlier, I'm a nocturnal being, and I'm just at night. Like I've always been a night person. That's, you get done with the show at like 10:30, and sometimes you don't decompress until like 2 a.m. And then it's like, oh, well, I should like maybe like clean some dishes or do some laundry or something. And so like I'm looking at 4 a.m. like on the regular, and it's I know it's terrible, because I do want to be one of those people that like I'm gonna go to like hot yoga at like 5 a.m. but that makes me want to like gouge out my eyes with a melon ball, or even thinking about that, waking up that early.
But that's the thing, you probably wouldn't be waking up. By 4 you'd be like, it's another hour.
Just push through.
Just push through to 5.
At this point, what's the difference?
Yeah, that sounds really hard.
It's you become, I love it, and I've always I've noted too that like every artist is different. So you do have these artists that are like working like 3 or 4 jobs, and they're just working constantly. So it's like I'm lucky that like this is my main gig.
Right.
I don't have to get up and go to like an office job or a coffee shop, or which so many of my friends do.
I'm sure.
And so I'm just really lucky that like it's my one and only focus right now, which is good.
So are you juggling more than one show at a time?
Sometimes, yeah. Right now, which is good, is it's like, this is my primary focus. And then I'm going to go to Atlanta to visit family after this. So I get like my first vacation in like a year and a half, which
great.
I'm really excited about. Because like, you got to make hay while the sun shines.
Yeah.
So I always tell my friends and family who I call them civilians, like outside the artistic
I understand.
world.
I understand.
Not to condescend to anyone.
No, I get it.
But they sort of look at me like, where were you on Christmas? Or why did you miss this person's wedding? Or like, we haven't seen you at DDD, like any gatherings or anything like that. And I'm like, I'm working. Like
It's hard. It's hard to be a working actor.
It is.
It's so hard. Like I mean, look, we're blessed in the Twin Cities to have so many theaters.
Oh, it's wonderful.
And so many places to work and so many opportunities. And all that said, it's got to be scary to think about saying no to something because of something like a wedding or a vacation plan. Like, you've got to like plan that stuff out and hope you don't get offered a job.
Right. And I've missed big ones, and
Have
I
ya?
still feel guilty. Like, you know, weddings, bar mitzvahs, like vacations. I've tried so hard to explain to people, like, it's not personal. I love you so much. I do want to be there, but like, especially when I think people understand more now because of COVID.
Yeah.
When COVID happened, nothing.
Right.
I mean, there was just no work.
Right.
And so I was lucky to have a little bit of like a cushion. Because I don't leave my house. I'm a very boring person if I'm not on stage. I'm like waiting for the next episode of Dairy Girls to come on Netflix. But
I love Dairy Girls.
it's so good, right?
So good.
It's so good. Good.
Okay,
Thank you for being like the only person who knows. For friends, if you're listening, please go watch Dairy Girls. Just 1 or 2 episodes. It's really amazing.
And then you'll look, it's 3 seasons.
It's 3 seasons.
25 minutes an episode, except for the last one. It's like a double, but like, just push through.
Yeah, they're
It's
easy
like,
breezy. They make you feel warm in your heart. Like,
Yes.
it's just good Irish.
It takes you a little
humor.
while to pick up the accents.
Yeah, which I love accents. I mean, like, I try to now do like a sweet Dairy Girl whenever I can, but it's not, I need to work on it.
That's not bad, though.
I wouldn't show it to anybody, but thank you, Lonnie, for giving me that confidence
absolutely.
in my heart.
That was good. That was solid. Better than my Irish. That's for sure.
Are you sure?
I'm not even trying.
Okay, I was going to say, this is safe space.
Not while the recorder's going. I'm not doing that.
It's not happening.
Not happening. Not happening.
So, but yeah, like when COVID happened, nothing was going on. And so I think people are very cognizant that theaters haven't bounced back fully yet.
Yeah.
And I've lost a couple of shows. I mean, like, we all experienced heartbreak in some way, I think. Yeah. But theater community members truly like got it right on the chin. It was kind of brutal. So now when I say like I'm working, everyone's like, oh, good. Oh, no, we'll catch you. We'll come over for Hanukkah or whatever it is. It's
right.
like, okay, good. Okay, like, you're not mad at me anymore. I can rest easy.
That's good. So when you're in a situation where you're trying to learn 2 shows at once, the only comp I can think of is when I was in high school as a freshman, I was taking Spanish. First time I'd ever taken Spanish, and I was fresh off of 9 years of Hebrew day school education. Oh, and my Spanish and Hebrew sort of lapsed into each other.
That's cool, though.
It was cool, except I couldn't understand myself at that point. I didn't know what I was trying to say. Does that ever happen to you? Not necessarily on stage, but as you're like learning lines where you start lapsing into a different role you're doing while you're like you're focusing on one, but you can only get the other one's in your head?
Yes. And it's maddening, and it starts to, especially even if you feel like you have a good foothold on like, okay,
part A
versus part A, you try to keep it as, separate as possible. What was I doing? And they were so different too. It was like I was working on like a farce, and then I was doing like Macbeth at the same time. And like literally I would show up to rehearsals and have to take a second of like, okay, put this down. And sort of even in my like, I was saying lines that were not supposed to be humorous in a way that the director had to be like, honey, that's your other gig. Like, and I was like, oh, sorry. No, yeah, he died. This is not a time for a fart joke. Like, no, I'm gonna reel it back in. But yeah, so it does. It becomes, you just sort of have to check yourself. Like, oh, where am I? What am I doing?
Right.
But and that's where like, memorization comes in. Like, I am an auditory learner.
Okay.
So I record everything. I record rehearsals and then just play it and like listen to it in the car. And so that's really helped me, because if I just have like two scripts next to each other, my ADHD brain starts to get a little like anxious about, okay,
I get that.
it's all here and I have to, but if I can like just listen to it, I mean, something in my brain, it just clicks and then it's smooth
Then
sailing.
it's okay.
Yeah. But everyone like is different. I know that I've seen friends of mine, actor friends, like write out, just keep like over on cue cards, like writing and writing and writing just as a way to memorize. And they do it for like pages of dialogue. And I'm just astounded by the commitment, because I mean, it works for them and
Sure.
it's amazing, but it's like just the level, people don't see like the level of labor that goes into.
No, I mean, that's the thing. It's like civilians who come to the theater.
Yes.
We go, we see, 90 minutes to 3 hours, depending on the show, how many, whatever the show is.
Yeah.
We go for the art. We see it. We go home. We don't see the hundreds and hundreds of hours of rehearsal and memorization and tweaking and all that goes into it. We don't see that. We see the end product on stage,
which hopefully is reflected some of the, I mean,
Right.
you get, because that's I've been in plays too where I know that it wasn't what I wanted it to be, and that's hard to know that the audience is going to see something that is ultimately like, it's out of your control. You just have to give it up and sort of move forward. But yeah, my hope is that, well, especially like with this process with Trayf, we are working with, the two main characters are SPCPA students, and they're amazing. And I was not that together at 17 or 18 enough to like, this is a huge undertaking for both of them.
Yeah.
And they're both acting students, they're very professional, and it amazes me like how good they are and how much they work. I mean, not only do they like go and do this show, they've got shows at school that they're doing, and they've got like regular like tests and, extra like
just regular student
stuff. And I mean, I did drama in high school, but it wasn't to that level of.
Where'd you go to high school?
I went to Maple Grove Senior High. Go Crimson! I don't know what a crimson is. I think
it's a color.
It's a leaf, but like our mascot was like a leaf.
Yeah.
Lonnie, it just didn't.
I don't get it.
At any rate, I wanted something cool like the Panthers or like, the Hawks. I don't know. I think I've seen Mighty Ducks one too many times. Possibly. I wanted to be something cool, but we were the Crimson. And I didn't. I spent honestly most of my time in the theater wing and the actual space. I don't remember much of high school other than like the art rooms and like the musty old theater backstage area, which is like my favorite smell in the world. Is that weird?
No. How would you describe it?
Mothballs, dust. There's always like wood shavings everywhere, in a scene shop, and it's so comforting to me. I mean, just that smell of like, it just smells like art, and I it's comforting. Like people like are like, oh, fresh cut grass or like clean laundry. I'm like, give me a dirty scene shop any day, and it feels like home. It's crazy. I know.
It's not though. It's not crazy. My oldest work does tech crew stuff for Armstrong High School Theater.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Armstrong has from what I remember, like phenomenal theater program.
Very good. She does the costume crew stuff.
Oh, that's brilliant.
And yeah, it's that's sort of her spot.
Oh, those are like, and when you find your people, especially at that age of like when you're a teen and you're just trying to like find some sense of community.
Right. I mean, it's hard enough finding that as a teen in today's.
And I wouldn't want to be, like, again, dating myself, like MySpace was the big thing. And like, we didn't have to deal with really that like, it wasn't, you're still in high school. So it's not like,
right.
It doesn't really affect your daily life.
No.
Like, I'm not in your top 10. What? But like now it's literally screens like all day.
Yeah.
And, old lady Lucht, I can't keep up. I can't do it. I just, I don't have a TikTok, and that's, Lonnie, where I'm drawing the line in the sand. I'm done.
I've never done any.
Are you on it? Oh my God, you are.
I don't create anything. As a organization, Jewfolk has a TikTok.
Okay. That's good. You got to reach the people.
We've left it to the youngs.
Yeah, brilliant. Yes.
Which puts me in the olds category.
Hey, look, there's a lot of us here, and we're actually fine.
I am coming up on birthday 48.
Hey, yes.
And you know what? I'm fine with that.
48's the new 28.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. George Clooney said so it has to be true.
Great. Thanks, George.
You can take that to the bank.
Well, then, in that case,
then we're all set. No, it's good.
Look, I'm happy to leave TikTok to the 20, 30 somethings I work with, and just be fun. Like, they put something out. It's funny. Great. Done. Moving on.
Yeah. And I think the younger generation has this really amazing sense of navigating all of that. Yeah. Whereas I feel overwhelmed. I think my goddaughter, she's just graduating this year, she opened the app for me to try to show me some things, and I just had a meltdown. I was like, too many stimulus. I can't. It's too much information.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot to process going on there.
I miss dial-up. Did you have the AOL?
Yes.
Yes. That's such a comforting.
I had
back when it was easy.
The modem connecting. Listen,
yeah.
I'm so old. In college, we had to use dial-up modems from our dorm room.
That's amazing, though.
Right.
But were you on Napster?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. See, you were the cool generation of now.
Stealing music.
Yeah. Well,
allegedly.
Allegedly.
Music.
They can prove nothing.
That's right. I admit to nothing.
And I never shall. The thing I love about this play, it takes place in 1991, and they talk about mixtapes a lot. And I felt that such a pang in my heart because Spotify playlists are not the same to give to somebody. No. There was an art. There truly was. And I remember some of the most poignant moments of my life involved a mixtape of some kind.
100%.
Either receiving a mixtape or even the more nerve-wracking act of giving someone a mixtape with cover art.
Obviously.
And that.
Cover art was tough though because on the old cassettes you had to write the track names.
Yes.
You couldn't just it was harder to do cover art than a CD.
But my hack, I guess, was, those you'd fold those notes in this very when you were, I don't know, it was almost it looked like Hamantaschen kind of, but you'd fold them in a very origami way, and then you could stick them inside the sleeve. And then when they opened it, they could open the note, and then the cover art's there.
Oh, see, that's clever.
And then you could put a cool note, if you like it, aim me or something later, something really non-committal.
Aim. That's awesome.
But
right.
But the kids in the show are what's mixtapes, that's archaic, right? I was
it hits you right in the soul.
It does. It gets you where you live, man. It's brutal.
Okay, so now we're off in tangent land.
Mm-hmm.
The movie
Love it.
High Fidelity.
Oh, top 5 favorite movies of all time.
Okay.
Absolutely. And
did you read the book though?
Oh, okay, I did. And I it's hard because I loved Nick's. He's phenomenal.
Nick Hornby, the author,
yes.
is incredible.
Oh my gosh. But I also love John Cusack a lot. So
Same.
it was hard to, I can't pick.
No, but I will say a book set in London converted really well to Chicago.
And I was amazed by it because that's what I was how are they going to, and and now when they rebooted the reboot, it's in New York, which.
In Brooklyn, right.
I kind of liked Chicago more.
I'm a Midwest guy. I lived in Chicago for 3 years.
Yes.
I didn't watch the Zoe Kravitz reboot in part because I know it only lasted a season. And
yeah.
So do I want to commit 5 hours to something when there's no hope of it bouncing back anywhere? Mm-hmm. There's no continuation.
It's a futile gesture. Mm-hmm.
Also, I love the book and then I love the movie. It's a reboot of a reboot. It's just
you're distilling it down to its. Well, and I was excited because it was a female perspective, but I love the original so much. It's almost if it wasn't broke, don't fix it in a way.
And the movie was the coming out party of one Jack Black.
Which those scenes, I mean, if I'm having a bad day,
Yes.
it's the scene where he comes in with his Monday morning mixtape.
Yes.
And I'll just watch him dance to Walking on Sunshine just to see.
And then just have John Cusack lose his mind.
Just
after.
lose his mind.
Right.
And knowing like most of those scenes were just
improv.
And
Yes.
they just let him be in his own genius, and it's phenomenal to watch.
We were in one of our trips to Chicago. We lived there for a few years, went back to visit friends. We were in that area, and we were at the corner where the shop, but it's just like an empty, I don't remember what it was. It was just an empty storefront, but I'm like, that's the record shop.
This is championship vinyl.
Yes.
This is it. And it lives in our hearts in a really deep way.
100%.
Yeah. No, I there is such a special thing that I miss about that culture. Like, because I also love records.
Okay.
And I don't have as many as I would like, only because, nowadays it's like, it's a very niche hobby.
Yes.
And I've been through more record players because they don't make record players like they used to.
No.
So I'm sort of like figuring out like how can I sustainably like keep this habit going without going bankrupt? Because anytime I walk into a record store, it's like $150. I can't.
And they're expensive. Like,
oh my God.
Records are really expensive.
Yeah. And the good, like, especially like if you find a good one that's, 20 or 30 years old.
Yeah.
And even when I'm walking to the counter, I'm like, oh, okay, here we go. Because I can't help myself.
No,
I mean,
understand.
truly,
Listen,
we love what we love, Lonnie,
Absolutely.
and I can't deny it. But I think the difference now with like Spotify mixtape or mix, I don't know what you call them. They're just mixes.
Just a
They're not. They're
playlist.
just a playlist, really. I mean, I don't feel like there's the level of commitment.
No, it's an algorithm. It's not.
Thank you.
It takes nothing on its part to create something.
I wish we could, if there was a way that we could like, I mean, I suppose like I've had a couple friends make me like mixes on GarageBand, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Because you can't skip. You just have to be on the journey.
True.
Like they make them as like 1-track files and you're in it for like an
that's
hour.
wild.
Yeah.
Never
yeah.
thought of that.
So I had a couple of friends that were like, we're going to try this because they just hated the way that Spotify just didn't feel like a mixtape. But yeah, I don't know. There's those like, there's things from my youth that I wish we could bring back as a culture, but I don't see it happening. We're just moving forward.
I think so. Progress waits for no person. Or something.
Yeah,
like that.
no, I totally believe it.
All right. Well, Marci, we could clearly go down many different rabbit holes, but we're going to end on the two questions, which you as a devoted listener will know the last two questions.
I've been thinking about this for 3 days, how to answer this.
Oh my
Because I'm
God.
so excited. So you go to Rise Bagel, right?
Yes.
I love it, but I wanted to ask, because nobody ever asks you. So, like, I'll answer it, but then you have to answer it, too. Is that fair?
That's fine.
Cool,
All right.
okay.
So what is your favorite Jewish food?
So it changes.
Okay.
But, like, I'm a diehard Cecil's customer.
Okay.
Because, like, my partner makes just a phenomenal brisket, and then, like, I dream about challah, like the hot challah with, like, the sesame seeds on top.
Sure.
So it depends on, like, what time of year it is, too.
Yeah.
But right now, it's, like, latkes and applesauce for me.
Okay.
Or the Rise Bagel.
So that was my answer, and I like Rise. That was my answer when I was interviewed on NPR a couple weeks ago, and I immediately regretted it.
Why?
Because I think I make as good a bagel.
Oh my gosh, you make your own?
I have made my own. It is a long, multi-hour.
I was going to say,
journey.
that is impressive.
That is like I start Saturday morning, I end early Saturday afternoon, and the bagels, maybe make it to the next, Tuesday, even in the freezer. The kids just rip through.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
I mean, and I help too, obviously.
Yeah.
I really like Rise. I think I make a pretty good bagel also. I love making challah.
I have no culinary skill whatsoever, but I so badly want to be like just one of those old Jewish bubbies who can just cook her face off. But like, I know it's probably not in the cards for me.
It could be in the cards for
because
you.
but it's so hard. Like, I've watched videos on the braiding of the challah. I can't. What is your? How do you do it? Just explain, like
the braiding.
Yeah, that it always trips me up.
Simple. It's so funny. I can braid challah. I cannot braid my daughter's hair worth a damn.
Well, the challah sits still for the most part. Like,
yes, it does. It's simple. I've done 3, 4, and 6 strands.
The fabled 6.
My wife found something on Pinterest, and so there's just like pictures. It's like over 2, under 1, over 2, and then you just keep working from the right to the left, and eventually you have a challah and lay it on the pan.
See, it's like bowling for me, making challah. I start strong, and in the middle, it just all collapses, and it doesn't.
I get that.
You know what I mean?
You
get 3 steps in, and then
yeah.
I
mean, we cheat a little bit. We use a bread maker to do the dough.
Ooh,
but
okay.
Like, set it and forget it. Throw everything in. Hour and a half later.
Yeah.
I have dough. And then, away we go.
Okay.
So I can like get it going just after lunch on a Friday. Work for a while. Braid it. Let it rest. It proofs. Toss it in the oven. It comes out right around when dinner's ready.
What do you put on top?
Nothing.
Ooh, yeah, classic.
Classic
Man. Just old school.
Old school.
I like your style.
Thank you.
Yeah. So is this going to be like a side hustle?
No,
like,
no.
Are you sure?
It's good. I mean, it's really good.
Because now I would buy a bagel from you.
It takes too much time, and I don't have like a commercial. Like, I like doing it for me.
I have children. I don't have time.
That's right. I don't have time for this.
I don't have time for this nonsense.
I have a job. I like my job. Look, if I hated my job, which I don't, it would be one thing.
Yeah.
Like I would look for other things to fill my time.
Yeah.
I don't have time to fill. I just don't. I'm just slammed. I don't have that kind of time.
I don't have extra bagel time to just
listen,
dally about my day.
I barely have a bagel time to like knock out a dozen for the family. Like on a
a dozen. I bet that. Okay.
Right, and that's the thing. It's like a dozen at a time. It's like I'm doing it in my kitchen. I don't have the.
But then like the house smells amazing.
Oh, it smells so good.
Ugh. Yeah. Okay. I gotta learn how to bake. I really do.
You really should.
Because I mean, I love supporting like Roast Street or like there's different
Sure,
bakeries where I'm
absolutely.
like I'm gonna go get. But I've noticed, and I'm very happy about this. A lot of times now, when I go into my Jewish spot of choice, they're sold out of challah. They're.
You got to get in early. That's really the key.
This is my staying up all night problem. I'm not.
You can't. You're not equipped to get up early.
The early bird gets the challah, and I'm not.
Well, then listen. You got to get your partner on that.
I know he is a morning person, but he's very good at cooking, and so I'm wondering if that translates to baking.
They're a little bit different. Science versus art.
Ooh,
those are different kind of things.
Yeah.
I think you try it.
Okay.
Try it. Worst thing that happens is it doesn't work right.
You're going to see some very bread fail photos on my Instagram.
Fantastic.
But it's the journey. You know what? Why not?
100%. 100%. And what is your favorite Jewish holiday?
Oh, it's a really good question. Again, like Hanukkah was so lovely this year, and it just felt really... I got, like, for the first time in my life, like, I decorated for Hanukkah.
Really?
Which I never, like, that's not really a thing for me.
Okay.
But I went out and, like, there's all these, like, weird blogs on, like, sustainable, like things that you can do in your home instead of, like, going to, like, get plastic whatever. So we went outside and we got a bunch of like tree branches, and then we made like these stars, like hanging stars of David, and put like eucalyptus on them. And it was like kind of very beautiful. And then my partner took a piece of driftwood and he made some like menorahs out of and it was very, I just felt it was very, like.
Look, if he could do that, I think he might be able to bake.
He can figure this out. I'm gonna tell him Lonnie said.
All right. That's fine. But, put me on the spot. That's fine.
Well, no, I mean, but like you got your own podcast. It's like you got clout in the community.
I got my own podcast. I can't make a driftwood menorah though.
Well, I mean, it was really you know what? This is the thing. Maybe we do like a
trade.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Because it was like for him, it was very easy. Like he just kind of sanded some stuff down, and it's like really pretty. And
All right.
like I had one, my friend got hers from Israel, and they're like the actual like oil. It's like the legit one.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I'm in the market. I'm in the market for a new menorah because I gotta like up my game if people are coming over. Yeah. And he's just like, I'm just gonna whip one out. I'm just gonna like whip one out real quick. Yeah. I was just like, all right, okay.
Listen, if you can do it, good for you. That's awesome.
But also, like, it would be cool. I think I need a new Seder plate, so now maybe I'll get into pottery for like the spring. Yeah, Because Lonnie, they're selling them on Etsy for like $200.
I know.
I mean,
it's silly.
I love a good Judaica
Absolutely,
store, and I
sure.
want to support, but
Yeah.
this is a chunk of change.
That's
so
some pricey
I
Seder
know.
plate.
Yeah. Because I'm just using right now just little like
Dishes.
little dishes and yeah.
Yep.
it's not the classiest, but it gets it done.
Listen, first Passover in the pandemic, did not get the shank bone, so we went to the dog's treat jar, used a milk bone.
You're fantastic.
It was my wife. I had nothing. She had set the
She's a
table. I came
genius.
up there and I'm like, oh, that's
cute.
That's funny as hell.
That's really sweet.
Yes, it is.
No, I mean, like, I make a decent Hera set, and he's like, is that just a Seder thing? Like, do we have to just do it once a year? And so now he wants it like
Chorus all the time.
Like all the time. Yeah.
It's my favorite Passover food.
Is it?
Oh, absolutely.
I like the horseradish. Is that weird?
No.
Because, like, I don't know why, but every time I get to it, I'm like...
Not my thing.
No?
No.
What about... it would go... If you had to do, like, foods in order of the Seder meal that are like, this is what I wait for all year round.
100%.
Is that... It's number one for so many people.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Because, like, matzo ball soup will have, sporadically throughout the year. Brisket is a,
That's a staple. That's
a
like...
staple. We'll do that throughout the year. But
Yeah.
like, Haroset, it's like no other occasion with which to just whip up a batch of Haroset.
I mean, you're kind of... Other than if... I mean, we could bring it back. Like, we could just start...
We could.
I love... There's a company in Brooklyn that has amazing... oh my God, what is it? Now I'm trying to think of it. They've got matzah crackers. It's like they're beautiful, like everything bagel matzah.
Okay.
And I'm trying to think of the name of it, but I'll send it to you. And then I just could eat that as a snack, like year round. Like, I don't know. I think we could maybe like...
Now I want to go home and make harosa.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Or like, what if you put it like in between the bagel? Or is that too much?
That feels like too much.
Okay.
That feels too
I
much.
would eat that.
Even just like a flatbread, like a non-matzah cracker.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know if it's sacrilege to have that without.
I was going to say, I mean, I don't want to get into an area
I don't
of...
either,
but unfortunately, it sounds delicious, so I would probably try it.
All right. Well, Marci Lucht, the show is Trayf. It is playing at 6 Points Theater at the Highland Park Community Center through March 12th. Buy your tickets online. We'll have link in the show notes. Marci, it was so much fun to have you here. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
The Who the Folk podcast is part of the Jew Folk Podcast Network, a product of Jew Folk Inc. Please subscribe, rate, and review the show wherever you get your podcasts. If you have suggestions for other podcast guests, please email them to me at editor@tcjewfolk.com. For our other shows, check out tcjewfolk.com/podcast.